KNUS Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
Seven a.m. in the Mile High City on this Thursday, August 7th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson, Senator Barbara Kirkmeyer is going to join us. She's the chief Republican on the Joint Budget Committee as Jared Polis calling everybody back for a special session. $1.2 billion budget deficit. $800 million likely need to be cut from the budget. Jared Polis imposing hiring freezes. What is going on here? How did this all change? Didn't we just pass a budget last legislative session? Well, yes, we did. But because of the big, beautiful bill, ain't as much tax money being taken out of your pocket, out of corporate businesses, and as a result, Democrats can spend as much as they want. So, what's going to have to be cut? What's going to have to be changed? Who's to blame? We're going to have insight directly from the top Republican on the Joint Budget Committee to give us insight on this. An interview you're not going to want to miss. Absolutely critical. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson. We're also going to get into Christy Burton Brown, Advanced Colorado. Does Tabor and the Taxpayer Bill of Rights have anything to do with this? That would be in the 8 o'clock hour. And then coming up, the annual Women in Business Conference. We're going to talk with the folks putting it on in the 9 o'clock hour. Plus, more wolves dying here in Colorado. I feel, not even here in Colorado, they're now Wyoming. They're leaving Colorado. This is in the annals of animal cruelty, the shipment of wolves out of their homes to Colorado, only to watch them die trying to go back to their homes. And to say that this is somehow compassionate from the left, terrible what we've done. We'll cover that as well. Now it's time, though, for news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning, Thursday, 67 and mostly cloudy outside, expecting a high of 98 today. This portion of the news sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, Governor Polis has ordered a special session to address a projected $1.2 billion budget shortfall linked, they say, to federal funding cuts. Lawmakers are drafting proposals that could scale back programs like SNAP, Medicaid, and child tax credits. Republicans blame the crisis on overspending. Hello, McFly. The General Assembly is back at the Capitol August 21st. Polis authorizing mobilization of the National Guard to support fire crews battling blazes in northwestern Colorado. The Guard will support fire crews as they attempt to contain the Lee and Elk fires burning in Rio Blanco County. In Southern California, the Griffin fire, up to 90 acres burned now, and I think it's only under, 9% containment. The Kremlin says Putin will meet with DJT as soon as next week. The meeting would mark the first summit between the two world leaders since Russia invaded Ukraine. 5 soldiers recovering after the shooting at Fort Stewart in Georgia on Wednesday. The suspected gunman, an active duty military member, was taken into custody. Sergeant Cornelius Radford was stationed at the base and ended up being subdued by fellow soldiers. 47 global tariffs are now in effect. The import taxes that went into effect at midnight will reach levels not seen in the U.S. in almost 100 years, with over 60 countries and the European Union facing rates of 15% or more. On Wednesday, Apple investing $600 billion into the U.S. Here's Newt Gingrich.
Look, I think what's changing everything is that you have this rock standing in the middle of history called Donald J. Trump. And he's saying, you want to do it my way or you want to be crushed? I prefer you do it my way, but, if you have to be crushed, it's okay. And so rational people like Tim Cook are going, oh, gee, do I want to do it the way the president wants, or would I like to be crushed? And they go, I've always wanted to be part of the team. And you're seeing this happen not just in the United States, but you're seeing it happen all around the world. I mean, the Saudis show up and say, could we buy $400 billion of Boeing airplanes? And by the way, could we also invest $400 billion in the United States to create new jobs? And Trump graciously says, that'd be fine. I'm so grateful. And then he goes to the next city, and the next country, and they say the same thing. I mean, this is the most, I think he's really now moving, if he can sustain this, he's moving into a league that other than Washington and Lincoln, nobody has gotten the level of energy, drive, effectiveness that we're seeing with Trump. Look, I think
Vice President J.D. Vance told reporters that it was fake news that he was leading a meeting to talk about the Epstein situation last night. He was to DJT's left during the Apple press conference.
I think here's the man right here.
I saw it reported today, and it's completely fake news. We're not meeting to talk about the Epstein situation, and I think the reporter who reported it needs to get better sources.
Look, the whole thing is a hoax. It's put out by the Democrats.
Another official from the Biden administration will testify today in the GOP probe of Biden's mental fitness while in office. Mel Gibson's long-awaited sequel to his 2004 film, The Passion of the Christ, is on the way. Lionsgate confirmed this week that the resurrection of the Christ will be released in 2027 in 2 parts, with part 1 coming out on Good Friday and part 2 coming out 40 days later on Ascension Day. The Blue Jays embarrassed the Rockies.
That's so cool, man.
Isn't that awesome? For that. Fired up about that.
I remember when The Passion came out, and
Same here.
churches buying up and going, and they, it's such a joyous occasion and
it was
powerful.
awesome.
We watch that every Easter still.
Yep.
Because look, there's plenty of religious content put out there, but quality is what made the difference here, where
No doubt.
you had some of the very best minds in the entertainment industry put on. That's why Chosen's doing so well. It's just well done work.
Absolutely. It is. It is. No, everything about it is just quality. I mean, I love it. Some of the scenes are just incredible. I'm like, how did they do
Do you remember when he's carrying the cross and he looks over his mother?
Oh yeah.
Dude, that gets
Absolutely.
me every single time.
It's awesome.
And she sees and she flashes back to when he's a little boy. He runs and he falls and she's taking care of him, and here she's watching.
So good.
God, I'm getting choked up just thinking about it, watching him fall carrying the cross.
And then when you see it in a theater, I mean, it was awesome. That was so cool. Because everything prior to that, for the most part, anything that dealt with Jesus or anything, from the 40s and 50s, a lot of it just looks so hokey, of course. But that, the real, the reality of that was awesome. Great quality. All right, the Rockies lose 20-1 against the Blue Jays, and that was last night or yesterday. And Broncos training camp continues. Once again, their first preseason game on Saturday against Shanahan and company against the 49ers. And Shedeur Sanders will start for the Browns. He's the fourth quarterback on the depth chart, but has a chance to open the eyes of his coaching staff on Friday. 64 in Parker, 65 in Arvada, 67 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your day weather forecast for the Denver metro area calls for a warm morning. That'll give us a good head start to another very hot day here around the metro area and region, flirting with the century mark and record highs today. Heat advisories in effect from 10 a.m. this morning to 7 p.m. this evening. Mid-60s tonight. Hazy, smoky skies again Friday. Highs near 100. Weather is a service of L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. That's bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Governor Polis calling those legislators back to the state capitol for a special session, $1.2 billion budget shortfall. He's saying it's all the Republicans' fault. In Washington, D.C., the big, beautiful bill, less tax dollars coming in, and as a result, we have to cut some of the services. People are going to die in the streets. What's going to happen? And is it truly Republicans' fault that we're in this spot? Well, she's the top Republican in the state Senate serving on the Joint Budget Committee. No one better to talk to. Friend of the show. Honored to have her with us today, Senator Barbara Kirkmeyer. Senator, thank you for your time and thank you for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Absolutely. And thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So is it all those Republicans in Washington, D.C. that have put us in this rough spot?
Well, it kind of just depends on how you look at it. A rough spot for the state is decreased taxes and tax relief for individuals and businesses. So, from the state's perspective, not mine, but from Governor Polis's perspective, it's making it so we can't pay our bills. That means, and from the speaker's perspective, both are Democrats, of course, it means, gosh, those tax breaks those corporations are getting is causing us a problem, so we're going to have to go back and increase our taxes. So this is all about how they can increase taxes, they meaning the Democrats in our state who have mismanaged our budget for, I think I saw in an article the other day where a journalist said that, we've been saying that the governor's been mismanaging the state for the last couple of years. No, I've been saying he's been mismanaging it for the last 7 years. But, they're saying that we need to go increase taxes, and because they have mismanaged the budget, because they took one-time COVID dollars and turned them into ongoing spending, because they didn't fund core critical priorities in this state, core functions of government in this state first. Instead, they funded all of the nice-to-haves, all the things that they just really wanted to do, all the governor's pet projects. Nowhere in the call for the special session did I see anything, or in any meetings that we've had with the governor, and haven't had any with the governor, but with his governor's budget officer. Had one with him just recently, but nowhere have I seen what's their plan. They don't have a plan. Like, what's their plan to cut spending on things that we don't need to do? Haven't seen it.
That's Senator Barbara Kirkmeyer. She's the top Republican sitting on the Joint Budget Committee. When it comes to the state, when it comes to the budget, she is the best. Now, Senator, can you give us some examples of some of these one-time projects that shouldn't have ever resulted in ongoing spending? We understand COVID came into the state. They gave us, the federal government gave lots of money that was supposed to offset some of the financial challenges around the restrictions that the government put around COVID. But then they decided to create programs that require ongoing spending long after that money has dried up from the federal government. What are some examples of some of these programs that Governor Polis has created?
Sure. There's programs, but they're embedded in all the different departments. So we received billions of dollars of COVID dollars from the federal government, but a lot of those went directly to the governor's office, and they're called custodial funds. So they went into the Department of Education, and they started different grant programs with them. And it went into the Department of Health. We created the Behavioral Health Administration and pulled it out and said we were going to do all of these great things and used one time. I mean, like, we're talking billions of dollars that went into, like, the Behavioral Health Administration, to Healthcare Policy and Finance, to the Judicial, to Department of Corrections to some degree. So they're embedded in all of the departments. And quite frankly, it's very difficult to go back and try and find them all specifically. But, we're going to have to work on it. And they're not, people just aren't going to like it. They're going to have to be, you can't keep funding beyond your means. You have to live within your means. And it's something that the Democrats in this state just are not capable of doing.
And you see it in lots of things. So, for instance, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the lieutenant governor is still drawing a double paycheck, correct?
That's correct. That wasn't... Yeah, that was in COVID dollars, but let me just give you one of the most egregious examples. $28.5 million for a big, ugly pedestrian walkway that the governor did a survey on and found out that the people in the state said, don't spend the money there. That money, that $28.5 million, most of it originated as COVID dollars, for the public health emergency. So instead of, funding public health emergency items, he wanted to use it on a bridge because he has money left over there. Wow. In his office. So yeah. I don't even know all the funds. I'm just going to tell you, those funds a lot of those funds went directly to the administration. And also local governments received direct money as well, just to be clear. So I'm not, just not naming everybody here. But the governor received, again, these custodial funds, direct funds from the federal government. And I don't know that I could tell you exactly where they spent them all.
And our state got a sugar high, right? You got this big injection of billions of dollars one time, woohoo! And then and behold, go ahead, please.
Just look at all of the new employees. Year over year, approximately about 1,000 new employees in state government. And granted, probably 30 or 40% of those are in higher education, but that still means around 600 to 700 new employees per year. Year over year on average in this administration. What did they think was going to happen?
Now, that's Senator Barbara Kirkmeyer, Joint Budget Committee. We're talking about the special session. So give folks a sense of what the special session is going to look like. We're hearing that what Governor Polis wants is cuts of about 2% across the board. He's saying, look, we could have waited till the next budget conversation, but that's going to put us in a lot of debt that we're going to have to figure out then. It's better to come back and have a special session now to figure out where we need to cut now. So give us a sense of what that special session will look like.
Okay, so I'm looking at the call for the special session, which the governor puts out, which I just want to point out that the night before he put out the call, he told Kyle Clark and Marshall Zellinger that he didn't know exactly what was going to be in the call. And then by, I think it was 10:30 the next morning, he put out a call with about, looks like 11 very specific items. And quite frankly, I don't see anywhere where he's cutting spending. Underneath the fiscal portion of it, it's about closing tax loopholes and increasing taxes on businesses, small businesses and corporations. I mean, they already did, they meaning the Democrats and this governor, already did the thing where they said that we're in Colorado, we're still going to have to pay taxes on overtime. They already did that without going to a vote of the people, by the way. But most of it is quite clearly just about how are they going to increase either fees or increase taxes on businesses. When we are the sixth most regulated state in the nation, right, where businesses are struggling to stay alive and they have to make a profit. So they're looking at things of that nature. That's kind of the bulk of it here. And then, and one thing before I forget, what I want to say is the governor already has authority in statute to go in and suspend spending and to discontinue programs. He already has the ability to do this when he determines that there is a fiscal problem with the state, when there's a large reduction in revenues coming to the state. And I think it was put in place mostly for recessions, those types of things, or when something happens. So think back to 2001 when we had Governor Owens, and we had 9/11, we had a couple of the worst fire seasons ever. The governor did the responsible thing, went in and told his departments. He didn't ask them. He told them, because I was working for the governor at that time, and he told them, you're going to have to make cuts. First he said a 4% cut, then a 10% cut, all in the same year. And he was doing it by executive order, which the governor has. And it's in statute, which prompted me to ask the question of Director Ferrandino, who is the governor's budget guy. And I said, look, you have been saying, I've heard it at least several times now, but probably at least 4 or 5 times now, that we can't pay our bills. That's how dramatic they've gotten here. But, we can't pay our bills. We're not going to be able to pay our bills. I'm like, why hasn't the governor exercised his ability under statute to suspend spending? Why hasn't the governor done a hiring freeze? And, lo and behold, the next day he's doing a hiring freeze. But why hasn't he suspended spending? Why hasn't he gone in and said, look, some of those grant programs, you need to stop those. We need to stop doing and handing out grants to people. We need to start looking at our finances. Hasn't done any of that. In fact, on Tuesday, when the governor's staff was in front of the Joint Budget Committee, I was asking these questions. Again, no plan presented, but on Tuesday, you want to know what they presented to us? The need for increased spending. They're called supplementals. And then they started talking about how we're going to have to increase spending. And I'm like, why aren't you bringing in negative supplementals like Governor Owens did, like Governor Hickenlooper did, for goodness sakes, and start, decreasing spending in some of these departments? He is the chief executive officer for the state. The governor is. He has every ability to implement a plan, to put a plan in place, to come talk to the full JBC, not just the Democrat members on the JBC, because I'm pretty sure they've gotten all this information where myself and Representative Taggart have not. But he has the ability through his executive orders to restore fiscal responsibility and protect core services. Why hasn't he done that?
Strong words from Senator Barbara Kirkmeyer. She's the top Republican on the Joint Budget Committee. The state facing a $1.2 billion budget deficit. The governor calling a special session to address it. And from what I'm hearing from you, Senator, stuff he didn't necessarily need to do. He could have done this himself, and now he wants to raise taxes. I want to point this out. The state of Colorado has raised fees 3,000% in an effort to bring revenue in because they can't do it via taxes. So they come up with fees and now have raised those 3,000%. So, Senator, do you think we're going to come out of the special session with increased fees, an effort to increase taxes, no cuts in spending?
Absolutely. And I think the fee increase in this case, in special session, will be aimed at businesses and corporations. Small businesses and corporations in our state, and the increased taxes definitely look like they will be with regard to the small businesses and corporations as well. They're looking to raise taxes. That's their answer. The federal government said, God, we're going to give you tax relief, and we should all be going, yay. I am going, yay. And but the Democrats in our state are just they're like being that Home Alone kid, the kid on Home Alone where he puts his hand on his face and just screams in the mirror and like, oh my God, kind of thing. And that's what they're doing. They have known. Here's the thing. Democrat legislators and the governor and all legislators have known. Back in March, the director of our Joint Budget Committee, Craig Harper, and our chief economist, Chief Sabinski, put out I think it was a 3 or 4, maybe 5-page document that said we are on an unsustainable path. They showed us where we were going. They showed us what the problem was. I know every senator heard about it because I talked about it probably ad nauseum for them, but I talked about it on the Senate floor. But they talked about in that document, we're on an unsustainable path. We can't keep up this level of spending. And with all the tax credits that we have done, and I'm not opposed to certain tax credits, but there's no discussion in this call about, maybe putting on pause some tax credits. that we can't afford at this point. No discussion in here, but they talked about that if we don't do that, that we will have to fund the Senior and the Homestead Exemption Act out of general fund dollars. That was in that document. So I don't know why they all acted so shocked in June or in July when, we have a shortfall of revenue, and why quite frankly, they're taking the opportunity to use the federal bill, the passing of the federal bill, to say that's the problem with our budget. It's their fault. It's somebody else's fault for cutting taxes, basically. It's their fault. When our budget, we know, regardless of what's happening here, we already know, we heard this at the June forecast meeting on June 18th, that we are going to be $700 million short, at least, for the 26-27 budget year, which starts next July 1. So that's when we go back into session in 26, that's what the Joint Budget Committee starts writing the budget for, is for 26-27. We already know. So that's where the Democrats have got us. So now they're taking, trying to take advantage. They're trying to deflect. They're trying to tell everybody, hey, look over here. This is not our fault. This is because, those silly, crazy Republicans back in D.C. decided to cut taxes, and it's cutting our revenue. And yes, it is cutting our revenue, but we're getting tax breaks. And their answer again, I can't just keep saying this enough. The answer from the Democrats in Colorado are, we're going to have to increase taxes. So instead of looking at where should we cut spending on those nice-to-have things, those pet projects, that stupid bridge. Of course, they're not spending on it now, but I'll take that $28.5 million. That should be at the top of their plan, by the way. But no, they're like, we're going to increase taxes on people. And even within the call, to me, it goes even farther. They're talking about, trying to do this fear-mongering with the people here in Colorado, saying they're going to have to cut core services. Like, gosh, maybe we're going to have to cut education. I can't tell you how many people I've gotten calls from in the kid education community. They meaning the governor's staff, sent out notice to higher education and to others and said, you need to pause, and they don't have the authority to do this, by the way. This is the one thing in law they don't have the authority to do. But that told them they needed to pause, and that maybe we were going to claw back money from uncontrolled maintenance projects. Controlled maintenance, I'm sorry. It is kind of uncontrolled, though. Controlled maintenance on our buildings means we're not going to do projects to keep our buildings in shape and to do what we need to make sure that we have our buildings and our infrastructure, in good repair and good condition. But they did stuff like that. And that's, and so again, they've talked about, and I'm just going to, again, remind everybody in case you haven't heard me say this, the governor in his budget request last year cut health care, Medicaid, to about 1.3, at that time, 1.4 million people for the state of Colorado. The Joint Budget Committee, I tried to get the provider rate increased up to at least inflation, was only able to get an increase up to 1.6%. What effectively that did is we decreased rates that we pay providers for health care, actually decreasing health care for people in the state of Colorado, for U.S. citizens in the state of Colorado who are on Medicaid. In the call, they have a line that says, concerning amendments to ensure access to services delivered by providers who are banned from federal Medicaid financing.
So illegal immigrants.
Yes.
Wow.
So they're working on how do we fund non-U.S. citizens and at the same time tax small businesses more in Colorado. That's how flipped they are on their priorities.
That's the line right there. That is the line. And my final question to you, Senator, I know you've got to run. You've been very kind with your time. Is this going to land? Are voters of Colorado, who are they going to blame for this? Do you think they're going to continue to elect Democrats and fall in line with their messaging? Or do you think the Republicans can break through and win the messaging war here?
I think when it hits the pocketbooks of every, individual, hardworking individuals, people who go out and work for a living and get paid by the hourly rate.
Yeah, our listeners.
Exactly. I mean, most of our constituents, I mean, I'm in the middle with everybody else, so I'm feeling your pain, just so you know. But obviously I don't get overtime, but I think it's resonating with folks. We owe them more, but I think they understand. When they're sitting down at their kitchen table, doing their own budget, and they're thinking, oh my God, our taxes are going up. I mean, when you tax small businesses, that directly impacts so many of our constituents. I mean, that's people like, I used to own a small business, and you're going to increase taxes on them? I mean, it's just going to impact them directly in their pocketbooks and what they can afford in their own homes for their own families. So, yeah, I think we are going to break through. I think, seeing some of the polling that I've seen, people are getting it. People understand that this is not, our problems are not directly related to Congress, that the governor and the Democrats are to blame, and they need to stop pointing the fingers, because, man, when you point a finger at somebody, four are pointing right back at you. And, so I think people are getting it that way, and I think people understand. I mean, we have drained. This governor and this Democrat one-party control have drained our TABOR refunds. They've taken them away. So they've drained our TABOR refunds. They misspent COVID dollars, dollars that were supposed to be spent on a health emergency, the public health emergency. They mismanaged that, misspent that. They've drained our TABOR refunds, and they cut funding for health care to over 1.2 million U.S. citizens in our state. That's what they've done. And they can't run from it. They can stop their blame game. They can't run from it because we know it. We know what they're doing, and I'm going to keep talking about it from now until next election, certainly, or farther probably, but just keep talking about it, because people need to understand what these Democrats are doing, and they're trying to deflect, and they're just trying to increase your taxes.
That's Senator Barbara Kirkmeyer. She is the top Republican on the Senate, or on the Joint Budget Committee. Great conservative leader in the state of Colorado. The fact you're taking time to join us, explain all this, provide some insight, means the world to us and our listeners. Senator Kirkmeyer, you can follow her on CO Sen Kirkmeyer on X. Go to x.com/CO Sen Kirkmeyer. Get all the latest. We're heading into a special session. They're fighting for you to keep those taxes low, to cut spending. She's doing a fantastic job. Senator Barbara Kirkmeyer, thank you for your time this morning.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you both. And please, hey, you guys keep up the good fight, too. We need you.
Absolutely. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, let's talk, friends. Black Eyed Pea of Colorado, with the remaining tax dollars you have, or the remaining dollars you have left in your bank account after the Democrats try to take it all to fund services for illegal immigrants. Go out to lunch and enjoy good food at the Black Eyed Pea of Colorado. Absolutely love this. This is best food. Locally owned and operated by Steve and Michelle. I love this restaurant. My whole family does. With 8 locations, there's sure to be one near you. Look, it's Colorado cookout and barbecue time at the Black Eyed Pea. Their August menu is featuring backyard combos, the St. Louis rib combo, or the barbecue 2-meat combo. They have barbecue pulled pork, barbecue chicken breast, and barbecue smoked sausage. So good. Absolutely love this restaurant. I go there for lunch, and compared to fast food, it's right there with the prices, and the food is so fresh, delivered right to your table. You're going to have so much a better lunch experience than going to fast food. Maybe you got a hankering for a sandwich. They got the grilled barbecue Polish sausage topped with grilled onions, or you can do the tender, slow-cooked barbecue pulled pork sandwich topped with cold slaw. Both are served on a toasted brioche bun. They also do catering, dinner party, rehearsal dinner, wedding reception, or company event. Make it a success with Black Eyed Pea Catering. And, of course, Black Eyed Pea gift cards are always great for your special someone, birthday favors, or holiday presents, or just to say thank you to someone. They have you covered. I love everything about this restaurant. Maha, affordable. Keep it in Colorado, locally sourced. Visit the Black Eyed Pea near you. So join the conversation at this point. Look, we're heading into a special session. $1.2 billion budget shortfall, hiring freezes coming to the state of Colorado. Democrats saying, it's them over there, the Republicans in Washington, D.C., it's their fault. If we only had more tax dollars, think about all the wonderful things we could provide for you. It's unicorns and rainbows, all the nice things. And it's the evil Republicans and their desire to cut taxes that's the real problem? Or do you agree with Republicans? Senator Barbara Kirkmeyer, you continue to build these special projects. You got one-time funding from COVID. And for instance, you want to spend $28.5 million on one-time funding for COVID on a bridge to nowhere. Quit spending. You're out of control. And Republicans in Congress are right to cut taxes. We need to jumpstart this economy. And it's the spending that's the problem. Give us a call. 303-696-1971. Text us at 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Barb Kirkmeyer joining us saying she doesn't see anything in the call about Jared Polis wanting to cut anything. Now, I've seen some other reporting that Jared Polis is looking at a 2% cut across just about every department in light of the fact that the state of Colorado is in a $1.2 billion budget shortfall. Sorry, those corporate tax dollars not coming to the state at the same level they did because of the big, beautiful bill. Republicans saying, we're just spending money in stupid places. You're spending money on healthcare and education for illegal immigrants. Meanwhile, I'm going to cut it to your own citizens. You want to build a bridge, $28 million to nowhere with COVID funding. So who's to blame here? And can you face a budget challenge without big cuts? My perspective, Bill, is we are just a state that has gotten so far into the progressive camp. This unending belief, if we just had more money, my God, if we could just get a little bit more, then we'd be able to solve all of our problems. Everyone would be happy. Right now, the state is spending more money than it's ever spent. Your fees have gone up 3,000%. We've all gone through property taxes skyrocketing. It is more expensive to live here. You are taxed more than you've ever been. Your fees are higher than you've ever been. Businesses can't operate in the city of Denver. They got a vacancy rate near 30%. Business after business, restaurant after restaurant closes in this state. We're building a giant wilderness crossing bridge between Castle Rock and Colorado Springs. We're building bike lanes, endless bike lanes in the city of Denver. We spend money everywhere except for where it absolutely needs to go. And when, God forbid, the Republicans want to cut anything, it's the sky is falling. People are dying. It's ridiculous. Colorado's in a terrible spot. And I blame the Democrats for this. We're going to walk into this budget challenge. And if Barb Kirkmeyer is right, Jared Polis doesn't want to cut, wants to try to find ways to raise taxes and fees, it's only going to get worse for the people of Colorado. Your thoughts, sir?
You know, I think the Democrats have a point when they do talk about the loss of funding from the big, beautiful bill. I understand the idea that they're not in charge of it, and also counting the chickens before they hatched is a bad idea, but they were planning, and it seemed to be reasonable to plan on federal funding that normally came from the government. So I don't necessarily critique them that much on the idea that this is funding that had been planned on and then was pulled back or changed based on the big, beautiful bill. But that happens all the time, and lawmakers have to deal with that. So rather than tar and feathering them completely, I do think they have a point. However, I also believe that part of what the Democrats are doing in Colorado right now is trying to convince the average voter that Tabor's the problem. And that's what I see in the strategy as far as where the money's going, how the spending's going, and their aversion to some of the cuts. I felt personally that Barb Kirkmeyer's strongest position when she talked here on the air was when she walked us back to 2001 and said that Owens was able to do this through executive order. That, to me, is probably the best critique of what we're going through right now, because if this really was such a crisis, if this really was such an issue, I'm just going to say, okay, listeners, the Jeff and Bill Show, if we were trying to solve a budget crisis, do you think it would be more efficient and effective? And what I mean by that is not always making the best choices, but making sure that we do get to the number that we need if we let someone that operated like a CEO make those choices, or convene a large committee of dozens of people who have different priorities to decide where those cuts are going.
True.
That's the problem.
Great point.
Yeah, that I think is the core of Kirk Meyer's really good critique of what's going on with Polis, is he is simply passing the buck. He has the power and the ability to make the changes that he says are vitally necessary to this state, yet he won't pick up the pen and do it. I just look at him straight in the face. Do it. You have the power. You have the ability. If we need to cut 2.5%, if we need to cut $800 million in spending, do it, because you're the most efficient person. I'm not talking about agreeing with you. I'm talking about efficiency and process. We've seen the process down under the Golden Dome, and Barb Kirkmeyer outlined many of the problems with that. Yes, the Democrats having an idea of taking a one-time allocation and setting up programs for that without any idea how to pay for that beyond year one is freaking stupid. And it's their fault that those programs are creating a budget deficit at this point. Yet the person that would be most efficient and effective at this particular moment, our governor, isn't taking the power that is given to him. Here's an example that I would put on the table. Imagine if it wasn't Governor Polis. Again, just hold your cheering. Don't get so excited about this. What if it was Governor Trump? And all I'm saying is, this is a guy who, in my mind, tries to go beyond what is reasonable as far as executive power and executive orders. However, if Donald Trump functioned as Colorado governor, you better believe that through executive power, he would be making these budgetary changes. He tried on the other end. He's tried it with the educational department, a whole bunch of other stuff nationally. That's a guy who, again, while I feel overstepping his constitutional authority, is making these changes. Yet Governor Polis has the power, has the ability, and won't pick up the pen. Stop trying to pass the buck, because this is just a plan to convince average voters that Tabor is outdated. That's my feeling.
All right, Bill, I think you're exactly right. And mark the time, 7:47. Bill Thorpe saying Jared Polis needs to act more like Donald Trump.
I know. What the hell are we coming to today?
All right. Everyone always asks, what makes advanced hair restoration different? Allow me to share, along with some details on, and get this, their once-a-year summer savings event. First off, Advanced Hair stands by the results, and the before and afters are second to none. With Advanced Hair, your own natural hair is guaranteed to grow. Secondly, Advanced Hair combines top-rated physicians with modern technology, creating a concierge quality experience that's hard to find elsewhere. Lastly, Advanced Hair's Advanced FUE begins regrowing your own natural hair the very next day. It's quick, it's simple, and it's easy. Now, if you have a flexible schedule this summer and you've been waiting for that special savings opportunity, well, it's here. Advanced Hair Summer Savings Event will get you the most hair for your dollar. It's their best offer ever. For details and to schedule your free consultation, give them a call at 720-459-HAIR, 720-459-HAIR. One-day treatment, life-changing results. Your new hair is guaranteed to grow. Before and afters at advancedhair.com. That phone number again, 720-459-HAIR, or advancedhair.com, advancedhair.com. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS. entire reason that Lollapalooza was
Who's
created.
it? Jane's Addiction?
Yeah, Jane's Addiction. Yeah. Perry Farrell, Jane's Addiction, created Lollapalooza solely as a retirement festival for Jane's Addiction.
What is a retirement festival?
They were going bye-bye. They weren't going to play anymore.
Oh,
So,
it was their
yeah.
farewell.
Yeah, it was their farewell. Yeah, that was the
gotcha.
idea.
In my mind,
And they
I
kept doing
thought
it.
it was something that
Yeah, no.
like when you get a residency at Vegas.
Yeah,
and you
no.
just sit there and play in
Yeah.
one spot.
No, that was the whole idea behind Lollapalooza, and it didn't. And it kept going, and then kept going and kept going, and changed into something else. And now Jane's Addiction is not going to play on stage anymore because Perry Farrell decided to punch his guitarist Dave Navarro. Yeah, they're
So
getting
Dave, I remember, came over to the
Yeah.
Red Hot Chili Peppers, but then
for a while, but that was a bad fit. Navarro, he went back and he
is
did
he a
some other
weirdo?
things.
He seems like a weirdo.
He's I would say eccentric. He's a little different than most, but does have his own vein of where he sits in the guitar world. He's talented. I wouldn't put him among the greats, but a bad fit for Chili Peppers. Really bad fit. John Frusciante, that's the best fit for the Chili Peppers. They've struggled with anybody
So why
else.
did he
than
get
Frusciante.
punched then?
Because Perry Farrell has problems with it. No, this was Perry Farrell. Perry Farrell came over and was the talk is way too inebriated, and we can talk about whether or not it was alcohol or pharmaceuticals, and became aggressive with Navarro on stage,
That
and
happens.
during the concert turns around and takes a swing right at Navarro in the face. That was the end of the show, and the rest of the band is never going to perform with Perry Farrell again.
Might
and
be the end of
they're
our
suing
show
him.
too if that happened. And there are times it gets sometimes a little close.
Oh yeah, but we're not going to get
But no
blows.
physical violence.
No, we'll never come to blows. But I
There's
just thought
also
that
no
was interesting.
alcohol or pharmaceuticals.
I know. That could
too
make the show
early.
interesting. I know.
All right, coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to be joined by Christy Burton Brown because, Bill, as you mentioned, this is probably an effort to try to take down Tabor.
Yeah, that's what I feel in this one. I feel how the Democrats are positioning this, it sure seems like they're coming after Tabor and trying to convince you that that's the impediment for all of this problems with the budget.
This is what gets me so scared.
Yeah.
Okay? 2012, 2013, the idea of gun restrictions was unthinkable in Colorado.
Yeah.
That's exactly where we are with Tabor, right? It continues to poll well. It's unthinkable that Democrats could ever take down Tabor, but could they?
And here's the thing, though. Yeah, they could. And when you talk about the idea of the gun legislation and everything, I think there are several layers to that. But some of the thing that people forget about most is some of that was bad messaging by the GOP in Colorado, not understanding where the voters were. And some of this could also, if Tabor goes, the Republicans are going to have to hold some of the responsibility on bad messaging and not understanding where the people are going.
Democrats make stupid decisions and we blame Republicans? What? All right, we're going to
say
continue
Democrats
the
weren't responsible
debate.
too. I started with them.
You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is 710 KNUS.